Hi folks, Mike here, the Security Silverback. In this session, I'm going to direction inspired by a recent rerun through CD Projekt Red's Cyberpunk 2077. For those of you who aren't familiar with it, Cyberpunk 2077 is a popular video game that was based on the extensive lore of a tabletop RPG. The RPG itself was based on a genre of dystopian near-future science fiction that was initially defined by books like William Gibson's Neuromancer and Neil Stephenson's Snow Crash. I could probably do an entire series examining the similarities and differences between our modern world and these works. For example, these days pretty much everything is connected to the net, from advertising signs to our communication and entertainment systems to our vehicles. Of course, the cyberpunk genre takes it a lot further. While you may know someone who's sporting some prosthetics, the kind of chrome everyone and their brother has in the world of Night City is an entirely different animal. Now, while having a cyberdeck would be kind of cool, I do not subscribe to the mantra, metal is better than meat. However, in Cyberpunk, your chrome is just as network connected as your car, which brings us back to what I wanted to look here this time around. Specifically, vehicles. In case you're wondering what inspired this, I'm going to show you a few moments of creative mayhem from the game.
Where are you walking?
What you saw there can't happen in real life. Or can it? Well, no, it can't. At least not yet. But the pieces are already in place to make that kind of remote control conceptually possible, if not actually doable. That we know of. To pull off the kind of attacks I was showing off from the game requires three things. First, remote connectivity that goes deeper than just the infotainment system. Second, by-wire control of the drivetrain, throttle and transmission at a minimum, but brakes as well if we're being complete. 3. Fully powered steering. By-wire steering would be ideal for an attacker, but any fully powered system would be vulnerable. The first part is reasonably common already, especially with EVs. Tesla's been doing it for years, as have other major manufacturers. While it's not as common for internal combustion vehicles, my 2021 C8 can get over-the-air updates that affect the drivetrain as well. The second part includes several functions that you may not even realize you're in your vehicle. Throttle by wire has been common for years, with the gas pedal acting like the controller you've got hooked up for playing racing games on your console. There are no linkages at all between the pedal and the throttle body or injection controllers. The position of the pedal tells the computer how much power you want, and it does the rest. Transmission control is more or less the same. Unless you're blessed with a stick shift and a third pedal, chances are there's no physical linkage between the lever and the gearbox. If you're an EV driver, those park, drive, and reverse buttons just tell the computer which way to spin the motor. Even the dual clutch transmission found in some modern hot hatches and sports cars, including my Vet, don't have any linkage between those paddle shifters and the transmission. It's all done by computer. Braking is also largely controlled by electronics. A lot of vehicles feature automatic emergency braking as part of their collision avoidance systems, with ties into the adaptive cruise control as well for vehicles that have it. And that may include an all-wheel drive system as well. Finally, we get to fully powered steering systems. Electronic power steering systems have replaced a lot of the older pump-driven systems, and they allow safety features like lane keeping assist. But those are not fully powered. They help, but they're providing more of a nudge than full control. Fully powered steering systems show up in cars that have some kind of autonomous driving, which is becoming more and more common. Though, to be fair, not everyone's down with paying a subscription to use hardware that's built into the vehicle you shelled out a fair amount of change for in the first place. Full power is also featured in vehicles that have self-parking capabilities. In most cases, there is still a mechanical linkage between the steering wheel and the steered wheels, which means that if your car did try and run you into a ditch, you still have some chance to control it. By-wire steering only features on one vehicle I know of, and that's on the low-poly truck from Tesla. So all of the on-vehicle functions needed for Cyberpunk-style vehicle takeover are already in place on a lot of vehicles, and the number is going up rapidly. What could happen if a threat actor is able to remotely take over your vehicle? Well, the clip I showed earlier on the creative chaos from the game highlighted it for me pretty well. And if you do a quick search for vehicle hack videos in the game, you can see a lot more examples. Though I kind of hate to admit how entertaining it is to cause that kind of creative mayhem, I showed it to highlight what could happen if threat actors find a way to remotely breach vehicle control systems. The floor hack I'm so fond of in the game translates to overriding a car's throttle-by-wire system and transmission selection. While I'm not genuinely worried that any of this is going to happen anytime soon, I'm also not sure manufacturers are doing enough to secure the systems they include in their vehicles. With fully autonomous vehicles like our robotaxis in the emergency heavy vehicle space, the challenge may be even greater. But how would a threat actor execute this kind of attack? Several threat vectors come to mind. While a direct connect-to-the-vehicle attack has some challenges, such as keeping a target vehicle visible or identifying the target vehicle for a fully remote over-the-air attack when you can't see it, it's not inconceivable that someone will find a sort of vulnerability that's needed to execute that attack. Potentially more likely scenario is an attack against the over-the-air update infrastructure. If a threat actor could somehow compromise the package that was loaded in the target vehicle, it would open the door for a whole range of attacks. They could compromise the communication system to make a direct takeover possible. Or they could use some kind of geofencing attack where the vehicle would accelerate whenever it's in a school zone, by a police station, or other area where a speeding vehicle would be a serious issue. How about changing the program reactions for vehicle safety systems? Rather than hitting the brakes when it detects a potential collision with the vehicle, it floors it. Or flooring it in reverse when the car detects a pedestrian or vehicle crossing behind it. With fully autonomous vehicles like the aforementioned robotaxis, operator workstations become potential attack surface. While not all autonomous vehicles have full remote control functions, they all feature some functions that the threat actor could use to cause mayhem on the road. Again, I don't think this is an immediate threat. I don't worry every time I see a robotaxi or low-poly pickup that it's going to go berserk and try and wreck everything around it. But there is a non-zero chance of it happening, and I am quite sure there are malicious actors out there trying to find a way to execute the exact attacks I've mentioned, and more that I haven't. For now, we have to trust that manufacturers and autonomous vehicle operators are doing their due diligence to keep their vehicles and systems secure and will continue to stay ahead of these new threats. Because honestly, there's not a lot we can do about its normal universe. Of course, there is the option of going old school, like the 68 BMW 2002 I drove for years, where the most sophisticated piece of technology in it was an aftermarket Alpine stereo. Carburetor, points, all mechanical inches, haha, the old days. Anyway, that's it for now. Please hit those like and subscribe buttons, and until next time, stay safe.